Well, I can officially say there is no such thing as a bad Rambo movie. Let's review Rambo Last Blood. Rambo Last Blood stars Sylvester Stallone, Paz Vega, Yvette Montreal, and is directed by Adrian Grunberg. What is up, guys? Rambo is one of my favorite all-time characters ever. I just reviewed First Blood. Didn't have time to review the rest of them. I have reviewed Rambo 2008 a couple years ago, but it's time for Rambo Last Blood. This is definitely one of my most anticipated movies of the year, so I'm looking forward to digging deep into this movie. And first off, before I get started, let me just say I've never done this in a review, but I really just want to say thank you to the soldiers that put their lives in danger every single day to protect our freedom. As a former military veteran myself, I don't take it for granted whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, I've never shown this on camera, but this is actually my plaque when I retired. And Katie Hester and the team at the structure shop where I worked at, they actually made this for me when I retired at Moody Air Force Base. And I just wanted to show this off because this is badass. And they did such a great job on this. But really, this is just, a great representation of the awesome career I had in the military. Made so many great friends, and I just wanted to show this off. And I'll let it sit there for the rest of the review. But anyway, we are here to review Rambo Last Blood, and I always get a little bit nervous every time a Rambo movie comes out because I'm always scared that it's not going to meet my expectations, just because that first movie is so great. The character of Rambo is one of the most interesting characters I've ever seen. If you remember back, Rambo 2 and Rambo 3 were pretty much just straight up action movies, as they should be. I mean, Rambo is an action character, but that first movie, we often forget that it really is a deep character study, of this soldier after he left Vietnam, and, he has to deal with the real world and really just not being wanted. And at his essence, that's what Rambo has always been. The loner, the guy that nobody wants to deal with. And he is really this lethal, trained killing machine. And it's always fun to watch Rambo react off of other people. And it's hard to believe that the last Rambo movie came out back in 2008. That is 11 years ago. It's insane to me. And believe it or not, this script, where you have this Mexican trafficking getup, this was originally the first idea that they were going to go with, that Stallone was going to go with, but then he decided on the Burma route. After watching this movie, I think they probably should have done this one first and then did the Burma movie, and I will get into the reasons why in the review. But first off, quick plot synopsis. This picks up after the events of the last Rambo. Rambo is stateside again, and really his human civil self has taken the wheel. The trained killer has taken a back seat because Rambo has this family now. He's got this niece, and I believe it's the niece. Now, you guys are going to have to help me in the comments because they breeze right over this relationship that Rambo has with his family. And I don't even know, outside of the niece, what his relationship is with the older woman. I believe she is his sister-in-law. I could be wrong, though. I mean, they really just gloss right over that. But the niece is wanting to reconnect with her real father, who lives in Mexico. And so eventually she goes over there. She gets handed over to this Mexican trafficking gang. So this is really a situation where Rambo has to go and save someone. And then eventually he has to deal with them head on in the final act of this movie, which is freaking balls to the wall, insane Rambo action, which is what we're all here for. So I'll go ahead and tell you that right out the gate. If you want great Rambo action, go to this movie. You'll be fine. It's not the best Rambo movie in the bunch, but it definitely serves up a healthy portion of meat and potatoes in the last act. Now, first off, what I really liked about this movie is Rambo as a character. I think he goes through different stages with each movie. There's a little bit of a difference in him. Like the last Rambo movie, he was completely cold, probably his most bitter. In this movie, he's a little bit more civil. You can see at the beginning, and I had fun with the beginning of this movie because my wife was laughing about it because we thought about that scene in Commando with John Matrix feeding the deer with his daughter. And that's kind of what the beginning of this movie is like. You see Rambo horseback riding with his niece, And it's really quick, it's really short, and they're just trying to get the point across that Rambo has a family now. But once, she is captured, he becomes full-on Rambo. And I will say, this is probably the most intimidating the character has ever been. Like, there's this one scene where he goes to this character's apartment door. The character opens the door without laying a finger on him. It is like, oh shit time. Like, Rambo slams the door with his hands and looks at the guy and basically tells him that he's a piece of shit. But I've never felt so intimidated by Rambo like in this movie. And he was pretty damn intimidating in the last movie. But he had this whole gang of soldiers with him to help him out in that one. In this one, not the case. It's Rambo on his own, which leads me into the next part that I loved about this movie was the last act. Now, you're going to compare this to Home Alone, but you know what? Home Alone has to give credit to First Blood, and I'm sure there's other booby trap movies that have happened along the way, but if you remember back, like in the first Rambo, he sets up all these booby traps to fight the cops. So a lot of people are making comparisons to Home Alone, but really, Rambo did it first. But he does it in the best fashion in this movie. Stallone got really creative with the way he takes out his victims, because this Mexican trafficking crew, it's, we got some pretty heavy numbers here. Nothing like the Burmese army or anything, but I mean, a couple dozen at least. And it's all of them against Stallone. And I'm gonna tell you, this is like testosterone fueled mayhem, and you have a blast with it. You really do. Like, there was quite a few times where the audience that I was seeing this movie with, everybody was just gasping, fist pumping. I mean, just so much fun to be had in the last act of this movie. And really, that last act saves this movie. I really hate to say it. This is not the best Rambo movie out of the bunch, out of the 5 movies. I will say that. But it does have one of the best last acts. But before I jump into the cons, one more thing I did like about this too is the realism. When Rambo's niece is handed off to this Mexican trafficking getup, without going into any spoilers, it is pretty damn realistic. If you remember back in Taken, when Liam Neeson's daughter, or whatever his character's name was in that movie, when she was handed over, of course, nothing was done to her. He gets to her in the nick of time, so, she's not soiled. I'm not going to say what happens in this movie, but I will say that these girls that are in this trafficking crew are not safe at all. I mean, think back to like this Burmese army in the last Rambo movie. There was some pretty heinous stuff going on in that movie. Even like the Burmese women getting raped, and they show it. This is that vicious of a movie. It does the same type thing. And I think Stallone likes to show reality. He doesn't like to sugarcoat his plot. And I really appreciate that about him. Now, let's get into the cons of this movie, because there are some big cons about this. First off, the relationship between Rambo and his niece, I don't think is fleshed out enough. So I don't think you have that emotional payoff that you need in the middle of the movie. I mean, they really just gloss right over their relationship at the beginning. It's just so quick that you don't have time to even take a breath and, take in their relationship with each other. And to give you guys some good examples, thinking back, like The Crow. I'm not asking for another 20 minutes of screen time. I'm just saying the way the characters are handled, a little bit of finesse. In The Crow, Eric and Shelley have very little screen time together, but for some reason, you bought their relationship with each other. You were so invested that by the time Eric is going and getting revenge, you feel it. You feel his pain for Shelley. Didn't get the same vibe for this movie. Didn't get the same emotional impact at all. And I think that's because so much felt rushed at the beginning of the movie. Also, you do get some of that like Stallone narration over this. He did that in the last Rambo movie. It wasn't really needed, or it just didn't work in this one. It almost got in the way a bit. Like, sometimes I think it's better, and I said this in the first Rambo review for First Blood. Funny enough, Stallone actually cut out half the script because of his dialogue. I think Rambo is a more interesting character when he is silent. And I think Stallone tried to give him a little bit too much dialogue in this, and really it was like that macho, cheesy dialogue that can come off as really cheesy, actually. And there were a couple times where I was rolling my eyes, and I hate to roll my eyes in a Rambo movie, but it did happen. Again, without giving any spoilers, because I don't want to give the punchlines away, but in that last act, how awesome it was, I think that final kill was a little bit too much. If you remember back in the last, and I keep referencing the last Rambo movie, where he sticks the machete in the back and then out the side, that worked. I thought that was awesome because of how much of a son of a bitch this guy was. I didn't think it had the exact same payoff in this one. I thought it was just way too much. They tried way too hard. And also, the ending of this movie compared to the ending of the last movie, without giving any spoilers again, I think that movie probably should have been the movie before the last movie. I think Rambo 4 really should have been the last movie, only because of the very ending of that movie. And if you've seen the end of that movie, you know that Rambo is walking home, and it bookends the first movie perfectly. That's all I'm saying, okay? But overall, guys, it's kind of split down the middle. I'm gonna give this a high humdrum. And I'm satisfied. I still had a good time with it. I will definitely be adding it to my Rambo collection. As awesome as Rambo was in that last act, it really gave me those like John Wick vibes. Completely different fighting styles, but both are very aggressive. And I would have loved to see these two characters like have a shared universe together. That would be awesome. So anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on Rambo Last Blood. Anyway, guys, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.